So last week we played around. We dealt with group policy and firewalling, and we're still seeing some weird stuff with looking at the firewall, but it's allowing things through. And we've seen some odd stuff with quotas. It wasn't working correct. Let's go ahead and delete out the quotas. Well, I believe we originally created the quotas over here in Server Manager. That's the wrong thing to do. Forgot. It's the wrong thing to do. Don't create quotas here in Server Manager. So the proper thing to handle this is go ahead and launch the File Server Resource Manager found under the Tools menu and go to Quotas. Let's go ahead and delete the quota that's here. That quota that was created only works on subfolders and doesn't work on the current folder. So that's kind of what blew stuff out of the way. So if you had a quota set, we're going to eliminate that quota. We'll recreate it using this tool. Did you connect to server 3? Okay, we'll right click and connect to server 3. Yep. Because it's saying, hey, there is no service on server 1. Yeah, so you had to right click, connect to server 3. Looks like everybody's here. Looks like you probably clicked and deleted quotas. Why does Wade have a whole bunch of stuff up there?
I put folders in my shared folder, so I put quotas on everything.
Okay. That's cool. That's a way that you could get around the quota limit. Just keep creating folders, and then each folder would have a new 205 meg. So that's wasn't really great. The best way to create quotas, let's go ahead and create a quota. The quota path, click browse, browse down here and click the public folder. So you're creating a quota on that path. And then you select a quota from the template. If there's not an appropriate template created, then you need to go and preferably pre-create that template first. You can define a custom quota in this dialog box, but I find it's probably better to go and create a template and then just select it from the list and hit OK or create. So now we have a little bit different icon. We have a quota set. We have a percentage here. It's at 415%. It's a bit obnoxious. Kind of went overboard. So now if we go to our client somewhere, client machine. Login as one of the users. Instead of seeing an 8 GB file folder location, we got a drive letter here. Public P is red. There's 0 space available. And it shows the maximum capacity of 205 meg. So a little bit different than we had before. The 2 ways to apply quotas. You can apply it on the share, and then any subfolders will inherit that quota maximum. But all somebody has to do is smart enough to create a new folder and put more files in. They could finally fill up the drive. you set it on the path, then that particular path is going to be maxed. I don't think I own all of these. I can go to server one and it'll clear some out as administrator. Still got the subfolder. What's that? Why are we calculating stuff? I locked it up. Oh, that folder is empty. Okay. Cleaned up a few. Now if we go back and look. So 110 meg free, but was that the quota on public itself? We didn't set it on deploy, just public. So that's pretty cool. In the olden days, it would have only been able to be assigned to E drive itself and affect the entire volume. It would have affected every folder. So they call that legacy quotas. With the modern quotas, each share, you can apply a quota on that particular path. And you can either have it apply to the subfolders only, or you can have it apply to that folder itself. So I prefer, when I create the quotas, to use File Resource Manager, and when creating the quota, using the top radio button instead of auto applying it to the subfolders. And you see it says subfolders, not the current path. That's where we had messed up Friday. I don't know what's going on Friday. Probably had COVID or something Friday. Probably one of those breakthrough things with the brain fog it's supposed to give you. I'll blame it on that. So a refresh, using 46% of the quota. Again, that's hard limit. You don't have to create quotas with hard limits. You can create quotas with soft limits that allow you to go past that limit. Once you get past the limit, it just basically records in the event logs. And then you have to have some type of monitoring tool, preferably a third-party monitoring tool that can aggregate all these event viewer events and then pop it up like on the dashboard, like it popped red in the Knox Center, like quotas exceeded on volume D or E or whatever volume it is on server 3. Or you could just manually look at the event viewer, but typically that doesn't work too well because there's always something that somebody's broke You don't have time to just go sit and look at event logs. Even if you run storage reports and stuff ever so often, are you actually going to look at the reports? That's why I buy a lot of tools and stuff. VMS and cool tools for virtualization anyway. I don't know that they have one that monitor storage, but VM1 is the cool dashboard. It watches the virtual environment anyway and throws up any errors of things drifting out of tolerance. So they do have monitoring tools in the wild. Okay, well, that covers the quotas. What else can we do with this public folder? So there's some new exploits coming out that just came out. Let's check out bleeping computer. So there's a 0-day exploit for MS-HTML. Threat actors are exploiting this. So 0-day means that it's out in the wild. Microsoft knows about it. It's still considered a 0-day because it's being actively exploited by hackers. And Microsoft doesn't have a patch for it yet. They've already gave instructions on how to mitigate it a little bit. But then like a few minutes after that, somebody found a way to get around Microsoft's instructions on how to mitigate. So Word documents and rich text format documents being previewed in Windows Explorer. Originally said blocking ActiveX controls would mitigate that, but now they've modified the exploit not to use ActiveX. So, and then there's blogs out there. It's like, it's easy, dude. First you generate a payload and you blah, blah, here's instructions and you generate the CAP file like this, blah, blah. And then you just send these files to people and they're exploited. There's an example of, here's a video. Okay, so we're worried about this exploit and it's spreading. Okay, we're going to mitigate that task because we got a public folder that anybody can throw files onto. What do people accidentally put rich text format or Word documents on there, docx or RTF files? Let's block those. They're not going to. Yep, not going to now. So there's a bunch of file screening templates and stuff. Block emails, blocks executable files, blah, blah. Let's create a new file screen template. So this is file screening. Word/RTF 0-day mitigation. If that's spelled correctly, hopefully it is. If not, it'll still work if it's misspelled. Active screening. Do not allow users to save unauthorized files. That's what we want. Select file groups to block. What is this? Office files. So office files, docx. RTF. We could create our own. Let's just create our own. And now let's just use the pre-built one. We could create our own or add our own extensions and stuff to it. Let's just block Office files. That includes the docx and RTF. And a lot of other ones too. PowerPoint stuff too. But this exploit might move into other Office documents beyond just Word and RTF. So we're paranoid that hackers are going to find a way to infect other files, Excel spreadsheets and stuff too. Because Excel spreadsheets have some macros and junk in it. But just in case, let's just block all Office files from being put on there.
As an IT professional, how are you gonna explain this?
We don't care.
We have to care. That's our job.
So we'll hit OK.
Look here, Mr. CEO. I know more than you. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, we're going to block all work activity.
What?
They start complaining, we just take away the internet.
This is,
You can't fix it without me.
You start plugging the router.
this is only for that public folder. So only the public folder is blocking. We haven't turned this on for people's like OneDrive folder that they're actually making documents on. They can still send emails back and forth. It's just a public folder that everybody's connected to. Temporarily right now, we're going to put a file screen. Nobody can put any more Word documents on there, Office documents. So let's go to file screens and let's create a file screen. File screen path, go ahead and browse. We'll select that public. And we'll select our Word RTF 0-day mitigation from the dropdown that we just created. And we'll click create. It's active. Now, let's go create a rich text format document on client. So I'm going to bring up WordPad. Virus, there we go. File, save as rich text document format. Okay. So I want to share this virus with everybody. Go ahead and copy it and enter to public, paste. You need permissions to perform this action. It's file screened. Not going. Here's our mitigation until Microsoft puts a patch out for it. No. That kind of really hurt workflow.
Yeah. Let's do it.
But this might be done for an hour or two until we can figure out some training, maybe even for a day, like tell people to hold their documents and then get some training videos on what's going on. We could be exploited. Or you could also check that Windows Defender has the signatures installed. So you could block it, go to run a report, make sure that everybody's Windows Defender signatures were past a certain date. And they're now blocking it. So mitigation and 0-day exploits doesn't mean it's going to be permanent. They normally have some type of fix or antivirus signatures get out pretty quick. They'll block. So yes, Windows Defender is blocking now, as long as you are using Windows Defender and you're using the latest updates as of, I guess, yesterday or the day before. They put out signatures to stop that exploit. So I'm just trying to use real world example of why you might want to throw a file screen on. And we've seen that, hey, we can't put the rich text document on there. We can't put a Word doc on there. It's blocked. But what about a picture? Can I put a picture on here? Yes, I can put pictures. So you just have to take pictures of the text they wrote. Put on. Save it as a PDF file, maybe. Temporarily. Let's turn this into a PDF. So yeah, they could still throw PDFs and other things on there. And then if you got Office, you can save things as PDFs. But yeah, this would not be a good thing to actually do. The deployment share. Remember the deployment share? Didn't whack it too many times. So we whacked twice. Of course, I can't access it, but because I'm not an administrator. Here we go. So the deployment share, you might not want to see crap like this. You may only want to see MSI files in there. You don't want people using this to like store the zip files and junk. So you can put some file screening and block everything except MSI or MSU files. That way admins can't just use it as a holding place and that it stays clean and there's not a bunch of other zip files and ADMX and ADML files. Those are actually copied and placed in the right location instead of just junked up in the deployment share. Because if you start deploying 10, 15 different applications and there's a whole bunch of zip files and different folders and junk out here, it may start to get hard to find. So you can lock down to just MSI files. There's a lot of different reasons to create file screening. Block everything, create an exception, and allow a certain file extension. Can be done. You got a share, it's only supposed to have ISO images. Block everything except ISO images. Don't let people put other stuff up there. So you can control bloat or people putting stuff in wrong locations by screening off what can actually be placed there. I think it's kind of cool. It's pretty granular work there to do, but a little bit tedious to set them all up. Once they're in place and functioning, keeps things neater. It's good to be neat.
Can you do that to the desktop?
File screens are for accessing across servers. I've not looked to see, I doubt there's file server resource manager and file server role that you can install on Windows 10.
If you don't like some, you just make it so they can't add anything to the desktop.
but client one's, no. It's a server feature, server role. All it talks about is server. So I don't see anything for Windows 10. Just a really quick glance at Google. You might be able to read deeper, or I doubt it though. I doubt that subsystem's on Windows 10. So here in week 5, you can view the blogs. Can you still pass the land 1 final? Here's the land 1 final. Could you still pass that? If you're not totally sure, if you want to just run through and practice, you can. And I could check that for whenever you get done if you want to. This isn't for a grade, it's just, it's a challenge. Could you do that? So I'll give you a choice. You can work on that if you want to. You can work on chapter 10 and try to get test out finished. And if you're already done with chapter 10, I have noticed that nobody is done with chapter 5 in security class. And almost nobody has even done one section of chapter 5. I think I've seen one person that's actually done a little bit of chapter 5. It's due this week.
It is.
I've even worked on it for a couple of hours and I'm only like, just to see how long that would take. Not even halfway, I'm about halfway done. So I'm like, well, that's gonna take students probably twice as long as I'm going through it. They're in trouble. So you got an hour right now that you can utilize